Welcome back. I know you're just binging all my videos, one after the other. So let's talk about how Ironjawz can beat the new Flesh Eater Quartz book. What this video is my attempt at understanding all of the new books as they come out, and to present the information in a way to you as an Ironjawz player on how you can really just beat these Flesh Eater Court armies. I broke down different types of things that this army does, and to give you a sense about how, when all of these working parts are put together, what it can feel like to play against it, and what you can do to win. I try to cover all the gotchas, and give you a general sense. If it's just I do like a TLDR kind of at the beginning, right? What this video isn't is a breakdown of all the good combos and what the best meta lists are going to look like. That's not what this video is. I hope that this video stays good until we get another FEC book. So I don't really consider points, and I do talk about the Scourge of Gyran stuff, but I try to focus mainly on the core book. All the seasonal stuff is going to come and go and change, right? But this book is going to be with us for probably about 3 years. So let's get stuck in. First, thanks to all my patrons, Wyberian and Baron of Dice. Wow. So what does this new Flesh Eater Quartz book feel like? What's its general playstyle? It's going to feel like it did before. I'm just going to open a can of soda here. It's going to feel like what it did before. You know, there's going to be lots of, cheap models coming at you really fast from all different directions, coming in off the board edge, flying at you, throwing lots of dice at you, and then just dying like paper, right? They all have, generally pretty bad saves. So, they get army-wide buffs called delusions in this book. Some are in the battle traits, but others are on hero war scrolls. They can change these delusions over the course of the game. They're technically random. I think it's like you roll, let's see, I have it all up here on my other screen here, so we can kind of poke back and forth. I'm here, see? Hey, I'm here, but probably leave it mostly open for my stuff here. So it's like they roll dice, and on a roll of 1 or a 2, you have to pick a different one. On a 3 or a 4, it can be the same one, and then on a 5 or a 6, you can pick any one that you like, right? So if the Flesh Eater Quartz player has one that they want, which they probably, because they get to pick at the start of the game, on a 3 through a 6, they get to pick whatever they want. But if they're playing Usharon, then they get to add 1 or subtract 1 from this roll. So if they're playing Usharon, they get to basically pick whatever they want. So it's technically random, but not really if you're running Usharon, and these delusions can act sort of like a toolbox. Early on they can give pluses to charge, and then later on they can have anti-shooting. Not that that's relevant to Ironjawz, right? But yeah, so that's what delusions. They can bring back units that have died at half strength, as well as return slain models to units on the table. There will always be more coming for you. Normally, against certain kinds of armies that have recursion, sometimes, like against Gloomspite Gitz, for example, sometimes it's a good idea to leave that 1 rock gut alive from his unit of 6, so that your opponent can't just bring 3 more rock guts out of the Loon Shrine. That is not the case with FEC. FEC brings back lots of models, too. So if you don't kill a unit, they'll just repopulate that unit. And pretty well, I have to say, too. So killing whole units is pretty decent, because then your opponent has to spend command points to bring them back on the board edge. They might not be able to get into combat with you right away. So, I don't know. You have to be kind of careful. We'll talk about recursion when we get there, but there's always more coming. There's always more coming. They have a higher volume of attack than the average army, but overall, they're hitting on 4s, winning on 3s, and they have 1 rend. So against the pretty good armor of Ironjawz, you're going to be able to survive them pretty well. There's not really any -1s to hit in Ironjawz, so we're not really a debuff army, so there's not a ton that we can do to reduce their combat attacks, but hopefully you're able to use all-out defense on things that are coming in from the outside, right? Because they do tend to die like paper. So even if we're hitting on 4s, we're gonna trade well against these things. The question is just, can you trade well over and over and over again over the course of the whole game, right? But lots of dice, but not a ton of rend, and not their melee attacks aren't that scary. There's just a lot of them. kind of like Ironjawz, right? But we throw a lot back too, so it'll be fine. I think we do okay against Feck. I think we do okay against Feck. They have deep strikes, teleports. They recur on the board edge. They get bonuses to move after being set up and bonuses to charge. So they're gonna successfully charge you from all sides the entire game. You have to think about playing against Feck like you have to play like a bubble, and they're always gonna come from the flanks. They just are the whole game. They're gonna set up on a board edge and they're gonna charge you. If you're gonna have like, you know, if you're gonna have like shamans or a war chanter or ard boy bosses or a mega boss, particularly if you're playing brute fist, they can't just like have their back up against a board edge and be safe. They really have to sort of be like in the middle of the table with lots of like protection all kind of around them on all sides, or else they're going to be vulnerable to to predation, let's say. So that's what it's going to be like, right? They have this battle trait toolbox kind of set up. They recur stuff. They get bonuses to charge. They're going to throw lots of dice, but they're going to have a hard time chewing through the Ironjawz armor. Sorry, one sec. I forgot to open my door. It gets too hot in here if I turn off my AC and close my door, it gets too hot. So what's our overall strategy? We kind of talked about this a little bit, right? But guard your flanks pretty hard the entire game. You'll need to survive their ambushes over and over and over and over again. All-out defense, defensive buffs, and enemy debuffs are solid. Unfortunately, in Ironjawz, we don't really have a lot of good defensive bonuses really at all, right? Besides all-out defense. And we don't really debuff our opponents super well at all either. The only ones that are going to be pretty good for us are for debuffs is going to be the Foot of Gork and the Boss Rock Tower. Removing a charge die from Feck is very powerful, because if they're not able to get their units into combat for a turn, that's what they want to be doing, right? They want to be just like getting into us on all sides, and if we can stop them from doing that, we're going to have a better time. So that's going to be a very important debuff for us, is taking away one of those charge dice. They have limited strike first and strike last mechanics. So the only notable one is Usharon. We'll talk more about him when we get there, but they don't have a ton of that. If you kill their heroes and their faction terrain, it really limits what they're able to do. Lots of their recursion comes from their courtier, like their second tier of foot heroes. So, but it's going to be super difficult for Ironjawz because we don't have a lot of reach, right? And we don't really have any flying. We don't really have any shooting. Our teleports are pretty mediocre, pretty poor overall. So the hacking crew is going to have to do a lot of work. The hacking crew is going to be a key unit to be able to just whip over infantry and get into those foot heroes so that we can kill them, so that we can stop them from doing what it is that they want to do. High Rend is a winner. They have in their army, they have 4-up saves on their big tanky things, 5-up saves on their more elite medium things, and then 6-up saves on the smaller infantry. So 6-up wards almost army wide, and 5-up wards here and there. So Rend is going to be good. Mortals are also going to be good. Zogrock is going to be pretty decent. If infantry is good right now, because it's not good at the time that I'm making this video, but Zogrock is a good choice, right? Brutes are a good choice. Rekkas that have anti-infantry are a pretty good choice, right? These things are going to really help smash through our opponents, even though all those units I just listed don't have good rend, right? But those are going to be very good. Yep. And focus hole units down, not a little bit of everything. If you're I'm in 4 fights and I took down 2 models from everything, it's you did nothing into Feck. You did nothing. If you're not gonna put a bunch of stuff into a unit and try to delete it off the table, it's almost don't bother. You're not gonna outgrind them. They're gonna just keep recurring models back turn after turn after turn, and that's the worst position that you're in. It's I'm fighting them on 4 fronts, and I have Ard Boys, and we're doing shield bashes, and it's nope, that's not gonna work. Yep, another good thing too for overall strategy, speaking of Ard Boys, is rallying. If you wipe a unit, if you buff up with Zogrock and whatever else, +1 damage, and you wipe a unit off the table, and you get an opportunity, and you lost 4 Ard Boys, bringing back a couple Ard Boys is not the worst thing to do. Right, it's going to help you. You're going to recur a couple models. They're going to bring back a lot more, but it'll really help you in the long term. Yeah. So let's talk about their recursion. So again, this is all of the ways that Feck can recur models. You get a good sense of what their recursion can do if we look at everything that they can do and put it all in one place. So they have a battle trait called Summon Loyal Subjects. It costs 1 CP. It's once per turn army, so they can use this 5 times over the course of a game. They can pick a Serf or a Knight unit, so that's kind of like their, little and, like bigger, like non-hero, non-monster kind of units. And they return at half strength, wholly within 6 inches of a board edge. So, an elite unit of 6, like cavalry, turns into 3 cavalry. They have a battle trait called Muster Guard. They return 3 serfs or 1 knight, wholly within 12 inches of every noble. Noble is a keyword that's on the lesser heroes. Expect to see like lots of 5-drop Feck armies. They like infantry heroes. There's going to be a lot of them on the table, unless they're going for like a monster mash list. That's a separate kind of thing. But there's going to be quite a few nobles on the table. If you can get rid of all the nobles, or if you can like kill the noble that's standing behind the infantry unit that's coming at you, they're not going to be able to recur models. Then you can leave one of them alive, and then all of a sudden, right, you see what I'm getting at here, right? But if you get rid of those heroes, then you'll be able to actually like start to win that grind where it's like, oh, there's 1 ghoul left or 3 ghouls left. There's right, and then it's like you can kind of like, pile in on something different and fight something else and leave that one thing alive just to kind of tickle you, right? And then they can't bring it back, right? So, and then you can try to kill 3 units all at the same time because they can only bring back one per turn, right? So you have to play Feck's game against them where you're like sort of controlling and dictating what they can recur and what they can bring back on the table, right? They have a spell called Charnel Feast. They have a battle formation, Lords of the Manor, where you return an additional serf and a knight on a 4-up to a unit that's not in combat. You might see this a little bit. I have a feeling you won't see it too much, but they just, can recur additional things. So they have a spell called Charnel Feast. It does D3 mortals to something of yours, so like of ours, within 18, and then they return that many serfs to a unit within 6. So that's pretty cool. I think Usharon's going to use this with their with the Crypt Guard. So, and I believe they can just do that in combat too. I don't think there's a restriction on that. Let's see, it's a spell, right? So it's going to be a little bit further down. It's called Charnel Feast. Yeah, pick a friendly serf within 6 of the target. Right, it doesn't say it can't be in combat, so they're just going to recur models in combat with you. It's pretty annoying. They have a unit called the Abhorrent Arc Regent. In your hero phase, on a 3-up, for a unit that's wholly within 12, you return 3 serfs or a knight. So it's like, return 3 serfs here. And then 1 more serf. That's 4. And then D3 mortals and return more serfs, let's say 2 more. And then on a 3-up, return 3 more serfs. So that's 9. Right? It's 9 serfs they're returning in their turn. It's going to be quite a bit of recursion. You won't see all of these things, but all those tools are there. You're going to see them recur lots of models, so don't count them out. Okay, so that's recursion. Let's talk about, they have lots of movement shenanigans. Let's talk about that. So they have a delusion called Splendid Pageant. It's a minimum run of 4, if wholly within 12 inches of a hero. It's actually pretty strong. They don't have a ton of run and charge, but the monsters do. The monsters have some run and charge shenanigans. So a minimum 4-inch run is awesome. It's kind of like a minimum 4-inch redeploy, right? It's quite good. When they need to really move and hustle across the table, they can. So they have a delusion that's on Usharon's War Scroll, which is a very strong delusion. I think you'll see Usharon lots if he's pointed well. But it gives the Feck player +1 to run and +1 to charge. +1 to charge effects are very good, especially given that they have like board edge recursion and teleports and stuff like this, right? Oh my god, I did it again!
I hate it so much. You know what? I'm not starting this video over again. I'm not doing it. I don't care. Oh, it's so embarrassing. Oh my god. All the comments below that are going to be like, hey, like, what's with the thing? It's like, I did. Drives me insane. I'm not starting again. It's too much. I did this already once today, where I had to redo a video because I sounded like a
bloody orc the whole time.
I'm not doing it again. Oh, it's so embarrassing. Okay, carrying on. Good thing I didn't have my camera on, right? Because it's pretty embarrassing. It's pretty embarrassing. Oops. They have a spell called, sorry, where was I? Yeah, so that, yeah, that Usharon Delusion also gives Serfs anti-charge +1 rend if they're wholly within friendly territory. So it's going to be Crypt Guard. If Usharon wants to sit on his territory and wait for you to come at him, he can. And just send stuff at you, he can. He's kind of scary. There's a heroic trait called Cruel Taskmaster. You get to reroll charge rolls for non-hero units that are wholly within 12 inches. This, yeah, like if you're getting a +1 or a +2 to charge and you get to reroll those charges, like I said, like they're coming for you from all angles, right? They have a spell called Deranged Transformation. It gives +2 to move to infantry or cavalry and +1 to wound. So yeah, I mean, adding to move is, I think, better than adding to run because it opens up the opportunity for a charge. If you're already moving like 6 or 7 or 8 inches and you get +2 to move, suddenly you're moving like super fast, right? Get in there, charge. Their faction terrain, the Charnel Throne. So this thing is absolutely busted. If you can blow up their faction terrain by somehow getting around their flanks, like with pigs or whatever, please do. Because in the movement phase, it picks a visible unit. There's no range. It just has to be visible, and it moves D3 inches. Or D6 inches if it was set up that turn. You would think those would be flipped, but they're not. You recur the unit on the board edge, and then 9 inches away, and then it moves D6. Even a 2-inch move on a D6. Now it puts you in like 7 inches away. That's pretty good probability if you, for successfully rolling a charge, especially with a reroll, right? So, feels bad. Like I said, they're coming at you from all angles the whole game. Get ready. You can't rely on a failed charge. It's not going to happen. Their monsters have pretty good movement shenanigans as well. The Important Ghoul King on Royal Zombie Dragon has an ability where wholly within 12 run and charge to non-hero monsters. So again, right here we are. It's like +1 to run, +1 to charge, and then if you're wholly within 12, you can run and charge for non-hero monsters. These things are going to whip across the table, bonuses to their moves, right? And then they're gonna move like 17 inches and then charge with a +1, and then they can be picked in the movement phase to move an extra D3, right? Like they're very, very fast. So yeah, I mean, for Ironjawz, it's like, yeah, like, don't leave things on their own. Fight together. Fight together. Don't leave like a brute unit by itself. Have an Ardboy unit there with it. Have a big pig there with it. Yeah. The Important Ghoul King also has a delusion and gives +2 to charge for monsters that are wholly within 12 of itself, or +1 to charge for units that are wholly within 12 inches of another hero. So it's like, yep, run and charge, +2 to charge. Yep, it's scary. The Royal Zombie Dragon has an ability once per turn army in the movement phase. They get to teleport. Just a standard outside of 9 if you teleport. And then they were set up this turn, so if they're visible to the throne, they can move D6. And if they charged on a 3-up, they can move another 2d6 and end in combat, like any combat. So it's like, hey, I'm going to teleport, move like 9 inches away from you. I'm going to move a d6 closer to you. I'm going to charge, and then on a 3-up, I'm going to move another 2d6 worth of flying movement and end in combat with something. Like, how are you supposed to deal with that? Like, these guys are just going to eat up your foot heroes. Like, they are. So the only play that you really have as Ironjawz against like these kind of movement shenanigans is to make sure that there's no space for these things to put their bases. It's like, oh, you charge in on a 3-up, you get to move, right? But like, you know, my mega boss is sort of like positioned kind of close to this piece of terrain, and then I have like a unit that's kind of like a little bit behind. Here, let me just pull up TTS. Oh, I closed it. whatever. I don't need to pull up TTS, right? But it's like, there's nowhere for him to put that base down because it's a pretty big base. I think I'm not sure if it's 130 or if it's 160, but there's, you see what I'm saying? It's like, there's nowhere for him to actually physically put that base down so that he can get into the combats that he wants to. You have to keep that in mind because these things are coming for you. They're coming for you. There's some non-monster movement. The abhorrent Gore Warden has a null deploy with itself and 2 units, and they can then be set up outside of 6 inches of a target unit and more than 9 inches away from everything. So it's like, just don't leave your valuable pieces off on the sides by themselves, right? Like, have your little pigs kind of screening out for the big pigs, but just know that when they hit, because these things shoot, so just know that when they hit the table and they shoot at you, that here, let's actually just pull up the unit so we can get a better understanding, because this is a good sort of combination. I think we're going to talk about these things a few times. Let's see. Gore Warden. Where are you? I know you're in this book somewhere. There you are. The abhorrent Gore Warden, right? In their regiment, right? They're patrolling the border, and then they can be deployed more than 6 from something, and then more than 9 from everything else. Oh no, this isn't the guy I thought it was. This isn't the unit that I thought it was. Yeah. This is like the... This isn't the one that I thought it was. So, but it's still, like, it's still pretty nasty, right? So, you just have to keep... You just gotta, again, they're coming from all sides all game. More movement. The Vargulf Courtier. If it kills a model, which is, not the easiest thing to do against Ironjawz, it can do an end of turn 10-inch move. It has to stay in combat with the same unit that it started in. If it's not in combat, it can end in combat. It's against Ironjawz, like, it's not easy to, like, remove a unit from the table. So this thing isn't that scary. The only thing you have to make sure is that if the Vargulf Courtier is coming on one of the flanks, that you make sure there's nowhere for the opponent to put its base down next to one of your infantry heroes, because they love to do to you what you really should be doing to them, which is killing their heroes. Morbeg Knights, they are like the cavalry. They're like, like ghouls on bats. They're really cool models. I really like them. I think I actually have a picture of them in here. They used to be really scary. They're not as scary anymore. These guys, right? These are the Morbeg Knights, right? They're like dudes with spears and shields on like bats. They're not as scary as they used to be, but they do have an end of turn free retreat. And I do believe it's the end of any turn, right? It's just the end of any turn. Morbeg Knights. Where are they? Let's just double check, because I want to make sure that I'm right here. Let's see. Yeah, once per turn army, end of enemy turn. So this is just before their turn. I need to make sure that that's actually in my notes. Where is it? End of enemy turn. I had a feeling that it was something. So yeah, it's like, okay, you charge them and fight them, but then at the end of the turn, they're gonna get a free retreat, and then it's their turn, so they're gonna move their 12-inch move and then charge with whatever bonuses they have to move and charge, right? So yeah, it's pretty nasty. Crypt Infernal Courtier and Crypt Flares. These are the ones that I wanted to talk about specifically. So the Flares can teleport to the Courtier, and their Courtier can then give them a D3 move, right? Yeah, it's this thing, right? The Crypt Infernal Courtier. Let's just take them. I think I talk about these things a couple times in this book, because this is kind of a nasty combo, and you need to be able to play around this, right? Right, so this is like, one of them is a hero, the Crypt Flares, and then one of them is like the hero. So the infantry, right, they're just these ghouls with wings. If this unit is not in combat, remove it from the battlefield and set it up again wholly within 12 inches of a hero. More than 9, okay? So that's what this thing's doing. So that the hero has pick a friendly Crypt Flare unit that used the 2R Liege ability, so that teleported it, right, that was teleported to it this turn. The target can immediately move D3. So it's like outside of 9, and then it moves D3. Then you can pick it. It was set up this turn. It can move D6. You see where I'm getting at here? And then it has this ability called Mind Shattering Cacophony. Pick an enemy unit that had any damage points allocated to it this turn by attacks made by this unit's piercing death screech to be the target. For the rest of the turn, add 1 to the damage characteristic of ranged weapons used by friendly crit flayers that attack that target this turn. So the hero shoots. It has 4 attacks, 10-inch range, right? So they're all going to be within range. 4 attacks, 4s and 3s, 2 rend, which is nasty, and then D3 damage. So if it does any damage to you, it turns the crit flayers to 4 attacks, 4s and 3s, 2 rend still, and 2 damage. So it really just like doubles the damage of this unit that goes with it. So you have to, if these guys are on the table, you have to keep it in mind. You want them shooting things like Ardboys and Gore Gruntas. You don't want them shooting things like Big Pigs and Heroes and Kragnos and Maw Crushes, right? They're quite nasty. So if, like, again, all of this depends on points, right? Because points change. Points change. They could drop points a year from now and all of a sudden these things are everywhere. But I wouldn't be surprised to see a list with like Crypt Infernal Courtier and then 2 reinforced units of Crypt Flayers. And then the Courtier is going to like prowl around and do his thing. And then the Crypt Flayers are just going to teleport to him. Right? And then, you know, so he can like reposition these things and then get them closer to you and then charge in. Like, it's scary. It's scary. Right? They can finish off a unit while he repositions with his 12-inch move and does an auto run and flies 18 inches across the battlefield. And then the following turn, it's like, okay, they teleport to him and do it all over again. And then, you know, he is a noble. So then he's going to recur some of them back. It's nasty. Okay, so that's it for like the like all these movement shenanigans, of which there are many, right? Like there's many, lots of teleports, like recursion on the board edge, like retreats and charges. They're a fairly mobile army. Now onto some of their like offensive abilities. So they have a battle formation called the Royal Menagerie. Non-hero monsters or beasts with an unmodified charge of a 9-up get strike first. This is not really a problem. I don't think you'll really see this, especially if we're able to remove a charge die with the foot or the boss rock tower. Right? So that's fine. Non-hero monsters or beasts. So just remove their charge dice. You can't get an unmodified 9+ on a d6. So if that's what they're running in Royal Menagerie, then, you know, prioritize the Foot of Gork. Put a foot hero in the tower. Put the tower in a very aggressive position up in the center so that you can catch lots of different things. They have another battle trait called Feeding Frenzy. Once per battle, a hero gives +1 melee attacks in a 12-inch aura, which includes companion weapons. They're going to throw a lot of dice. Use all-out defense, right? That's the best thing you can do. Weird Fist is going to be pretty good against these. I know Brute Fist is a seasonal thing, but getting a 6-up ward against like a high volume of attacks, it's not too bad. They have an artifact of power called Grizzly Pennant. If charged, they roll greater than the control of the unit that charged them, and they get +1. No, sorry. It's if that unit charged. So they can put this on like one of those like zombie dragons, right? So if it charged, they roll greater than the control of the unit that they charged, and they get +1 attacks for friendly units targeting that unit. So like a zombie dragon and whatever it brought with it, and then -1 attacks for your unit. So that's pretty lame. That's pretty lame. -1 attacks in Ironjawz. I mean, it's -1 attacks is a better debuff than -1 to hit, but it's super nasty. I mean, giving both is super good, right? Like cutting the number of dice in half, you know, halves the damage that the unit's going to deal. It's a lot of damage to remove. They have a prayer called Excommunication. On a 4, with an 18, you ignore positives to save. Overcharge removes wards. So the only thing that we're really worried about having a ward removed is Kragnos. You know, like we can put a 6-up ward on like a Mega Boss or a Maw Crusher. So there's that. Weird Fist. But removing a 6-up ward isn't that big of a deal. But ignoring positives to save, like telling an Ironjawz player that they can't use all-out defense and they lose their Weird Fist 6-up ward, that can be kind of annoying. But I think there's other prayers that you'll probably see that'll come before this. This isn't like a, you know, their best one or whatever. More offensive abilities. They have a prayer called Summer King's Favor. It goes off on a 5. It gives +1 melee damage for a hero. Overcharged, it fights twice. So just big slappy heroes. Yep. Doesn't affect companion weapons, right? So maybe you'll probably just see this mostly on Usharon. Yeah, because Big Daddy Usharon. He is pretty scary. Ushoran? Let's see, where is he? Yeah, like Usharon doesn't have companion weapons, right? 8 attacks, 3s and 3s, 1 rend, and then this can be 3 damage. So, yep. They have a unit called the High Falconer Felgrin. He removes a ward from a unit. So again, just don't let this be Kragnos, right? We don't really have wards, really. They have another infantry hero called the Royal Decapitator. After it fights, it rolls 2d6. If that roll is greater than the health characteristic of an infantry hero, that hero was slain. So don't let the Royal Decapitator... What does he look? He's got like a big, like... It looks like he's the Decapitator. Like he's got like a huge, like scythe. I think it's a 2-sided scythe. And it really looks like he's there to like chop some heads off. So just keep him away from your infantry heroes and you should be fine. But again, like for us, like where is he? Is this him here? No. But for us, it's really like, this is what he looks like here. No, it's not a scythe. It's just a big head chopper, right? He looks like this. He's got it. He's holding a head in his hand, right? He looks like a decapitator. But again, like with this, with that guy, like Ironjawz don't really have a ton of like fighting infantry heroes. It's just the Mega Boss. So if you have a Mega Boss on foot and you plan on fighting him alongside brutes to bring them in and buff them and everything, just don't fight into the Decapitator, right? That's it. Easy peasy. They have another hero called the Crypt Infernal Courtier and Crypt Flayers. We talked about this. They teleport, they add shooting. It's really nasty. Just make sure that all your, valuable hammers are getting to trade before they die. So your brutes and your big pigs, right? Use your little pigs and your ard boys to screen these things out. Make them shoot things that you don't really care all that much if they shoot at, right? And if they're ard boys, we talked about rally. So rally is going to be good for ard boys, especially if you're running an ard boy boss. Don't forget, right? The ard boy boss adds 3, right? And then they have a banner, so it adds 1. Or a musician. Yeah, a musician, so it adds 1. So you can roll 10 dice for ard boys. So, you're bringing back 5 models. It's a lot, right? If they're not in combat. So if they're going to use shooting shenanigans and then run away, it's like, yeah, roll 10 dice, look for 4-ups. You can do it. They have a manifestation called the Corpse Mare Stampede. It can charge the turns it comes into combat. And every round that it's in play, it gets to add more and more charge dice. And then it gets to add the unmodified charge roll to the number of attacks that it has, or something like that. But the longer it's in play, the harder it's going to hit. So the Corpse Mare Stampede is a manifestation that you're going to want to remove from the table, or fight and remove from the table before it gets out of hand. Because if it stays on there for like a couple rounds, it'll become nastier and nastier and nastier. So anti-tech, what things do the Flesh Eater courts have that are like anti-monster, anti-infantry, and so on, right? Things you should really keep away. The Royal Terrorgeist. So this is one of the non-hero big dragons. Let's see if I can find a picture of it here. It has a 6-up horde buster to an infantry unit that it's in combat with. If 3 or more damage is allocated to that unit, the unit also gets the dreaded, the hated -1 to hit. We hate -1 to hit. I don't really know what we're going to be able to do against this thing. There's no picture of it here, but it is like one of the big, it's like one of the big bats, right? It looks like this, but it doesn't have a guy on the back, right? But it looks like an undead bat, as opposed to the dragon, right? The Geist is like a bat. But like, yeah, like what do you do? Right? It's like, oh, it's gonna come in on 20 ard boys, right? And so it's gonna roll 6 dice. If 3 or more damage is allocated, so you can ward it off. So Weird Fist, again, strangely enough, is good here. But if you're rolling 20 dice on a 6-up, like how much damage is that on average? Yeah, 3.3. So squads of 20 is where this thing is going to be really nasty, right? Squads of 20 is where it's likely to happen. Squads of 10, it's like 1.7 damage on average, so they have to spike. But still, it's like 3 6s. You roll 10 dice, right? You get 3 6s. But 20 is where this thing is really going to give -1 to hit rolls. So keep your reinforced Ardboys away from this thing. The Gore Gruntas and all that, it's not a big deal. Because it's only infantry units. So kill it with your monsters. Don't send it into Ardboys. Or don't let Ardboys... I mean, you might have to, right? But just understand that if that's what's going to happen, the Ardboys aren't going to be hitting for almost anything. So you need like all-out attack at minimum if you're going to try to do anything with it. Or like Zogrok, right? You can buff them with Zogrok and just be like, well, here's Shield Bash mortals and here's some other mortals. And that's all we're going to do, right? Like we're not really going to be hitting on very much. Crypt Horrors have anti-cavalry. These things are cool. They roll 2 dice for each model in their unit. And for every 3 up versus a cavalry is a mortal. So they roll 12 dice, and every 3 up is a mortal. And I think this is on the charge. Crypt Horrors. Let me just double check. Yeah, Crypt Horrors. Here they are here. Right? They're kind of like more elite. Like they have bigger bases. I think they're on 40s. Once per turn, army, any combat phase. Yeah, it's just like pick a unit in combat with it. So these things are going to just chew through pigs. Right? They're just going to chew through pigs. So do not send pigs into... Crypt Horrors, because they're just gonna chew through the pigs. They're really nasty. They have these spikes on their back, and they're like, they look big, right? I can't remember what size base they're on, but they're not on 32s. I think they're on 40s. They also have anti-cavalry, right? So it's like gonna be 2 rend, 2 damage, right? Like, just keep pigs away from these things. Royal Beast Flayers. Monsters can't use rampages within 3 inches of them, and monsters and beasts get -1 damage. So just keep your monsters away, right? Keep your big pigs away from the Beast Flayers. Fight them with infantry. Fight them with cavalry. Easy peasy. They what do they look like? They look. I think they're a Warcry unit. Let's see if I can find them. Yeah, there's a picture. They look kind of like Monster Killers. Same kind of idea, right? So, you know, anti-beast, anti-monster, +1 rend. So just keep your monsters away from these things. Losing a rampage can be pretty brutal. Imagine a hacking crew not being able to use its rampage. Yeah. Very, very nasty. Here are some, so like, but you can kind of see, right? Like if we kind of look through the categories that we've covered so far, it's like quite a bit of recursion, right? And some good recursion. And then quite a bit of good movement abilities, right? Like they're teleporting around, they're, you know, coming in off the, they're just getting these extra moves to guarantee charges, right? Like pretty good movement stuff. But then for offense, it kind of drops off a little bit. It's not as scary, right? It's like on a 9 up, they get first strike. That's not good. It's not super strong. +1 attacks in a 12-inch aura once per game, right? Like it's not like ignoring save bonuses, removing wards, +1 damage for a hero. It's kind of limited. Oh, I didn't talk about this one. I didn't talk about that one. How did I miss that one? Removing a ward. I'll cover this one in a sec. So it's like, you know, like, oh, your infantry hero can kill my infantry hero. Well, I'm just going to keep my infantry hero away from you, right? So it's like they don't really have a ton of offensive ability. It's more their movement and their recursion that's going to be pretty nasty. So again, it's like for Ironjawz, it's like trying to keep your stuff alive, like using all-out defense, you know, like it's more just like, can you just sort of withstand the onslaught over and over and over again? Can't believe I missed this one. Usharon has a spell. A unit within 18 inches makes one of your units fight another unit or itself if it has more than one model. It's gross. So if you're gonna have like a big pig and some Ironjawz, or sorry, some brutes or some Ardboys or some small pigs, you need to leave a 3-inch gap between them. If you're gonna fight Usharon, you have to leave gaps between your units. 3 inches. Your units cannot be in combat with each other if they're gonna go anywhere near 18 inches of Usharon. It's not that difficult to do. And if you're gonna send one thing to go kill Usharon, have it be a big pig, because it can't fight itself. But if brutes go towards Usharon, the unit of brutes is going to fight itself. If gore gruntas go towards, they're going to fight themselves. So brutes are like the opposite of what you want to be going into Usharon, right? You don't want that because they deal a lot of damage and they're just gonna like kill a few of their own unit. So that's bad, right? That's bad. Defensive abilities. So they have a delusion called Splendid Pageant. Heroes are invisible outside of 6 inches. We don't care. We don't have shooting, right? We don't care. The only thing that this would affect is Mighty Headbutt, right? If they have an infantry wizard and you have, you know, you can like headbutt them. So you can't really do this if they have this delusion. They probably won't though. The Abhorrent Arc Regent has a delusion. -1 to hit from shooting for units wholly within 12. Again, we don't care. We don't have any shooting. Go at her. Or fly at her. They have a heroic trait called Stronger in Madness. Weapon abilities for combat attacks have no effect against this unit. This only really applies for buffs. We don't really have a lot of these combat attack abilities, right? We have the odd, like Ardboys have anti-charge +1 rend. It's like, okay, right? Like, what else even do we really have? You know, like, I'm really thinking here. It's like anti-infantry, but like companion doesn't matter. We're still gonna get the bonuses to the Maugrunt as tusks because it's not a weapon ability, right? Like, what else do we even care about? Like, what else even has anything like this? Anti-charge. Like, Ragers have anti-monster +1 rend, so there's that, I guess. Gorgruntas have anti-cavalry, right? And charge +1 damage, so those don't really count. But Gorgruntas aren't really there for their damage anyway. There's a few things you have to kind of look out for, but really, it's more just like the Zogrok and the Weird Knob Shaman that can give crits, mortals, and crit 2 hits respectively. So that's kind of it. So, like, just cast other spells and do other things if you're going to be sending something in with this heroic trait. You might see this on, like, some of the hero zombie dragons to be like, oh, like, you can't use crit mortals against me, right? So it's way scarier for armies that rely on things like this, like Daughters of Cain or Cruel Boys. So, not just mind your buffs. Don't buff up a unit and send it in and be like, oh shoot, doesn't do anything. They have a prayer called Charnel Conviction, goes off on a 4 for a unit wholly within 12. On a 5, it gives a 5-up board, right? That's kind of annoying, right? Because we want things to die. So, and I guess they don't. So, yeah, c'est la vie. Abhorrents, they heal D3 in their hero phase. All of them do. Usharon is an abhorrent. He's just going to heal D3 in their hero phase. So it's not like a troll where it does it at the start of every turn, but just keep that in mind, right? If you're going to kill things in Feck, kill them, right? Don't like deal damage spread out. Pick a thing and kill it. Because if you don't, they're going to heal, they're going to recur models. It's going to be annoying. Kill the thing. Kill all the things. They have a manifestation called the Chalice of Usharon. Within 6, on a 3-up, makes you pick either. They get to crit against you on 5s, or you lose weapon abilities. So we just lose weapon abilities every time, right? We don't care. We just lose. That's totally fine. For Ironjawz, if you're playing against the Chalice of Usharon, and they're like, haha, which one? You're like, well, I choose to lose the no abilities that I have, right? Again, we don't have a ton of these, so it's not a big deal for us. Just be careful about your buffs. Manifestation Cadaverous Barricade stops runs and retreats and halves the movements within 3 inches. This thing can be super annoying against Ironjawz. Stopping our runs can be super annoying just because sometimes we really like to run to get some movement going on, right? Like an auto run 6 is a pretty good command in Ironjawz, so that sucks. And then halving a move, turning a move from 4 inches to 2 inches is brutal. We might as well be going backwards at that point. So of all the manifestations that are out there, I say you want to get rid of the Stampeding Mares one first, the Cadaverous Barricade second, and then the Chalice of Usharon third, if you even care. Some units have some pretty good defensive abilities as well. Usharon, this is another nasty thing that Usharon is. You're going to see a lot of Usharon. He has a good spell, he's got a good ability. He doesn't deal a ton of damage in melee, but he does deal decent damage in melee. Yeah, good delusion, good spell, good rampage. Usharon's rampage. He can make up to 3 units in combat with him strike last if he rolls greater than their control. So send in the pigs. send in the monsters. You want to kill Usharon, send in a Tusk Boss. Send in Kragnos. Send in a Maw Crusher. Don't send in Ardboys and Brutes. He's going to make them fight last. He's going to beat up on them. It's going to be bad, right? He's going to make them strike last. So send in the monsters to kill Usharon. Space them 3 inches apart. Best case scenario, it's like, oh, here's like, you know, a Tusk Boss and a, you know, like a Gouger, right? And they're both 3 inches apart from each other in the hero phase, and they're going to charge in and make Usharon strike last, and they have full momentum, and they're going to just try to delete him in 1 turn. That's your best case scenario for killing Usharon as Ironjawz, right? Send in the pigs. The Abhorrent Ghoul King has a rampage. He shuts off commands if he rolls greater than control. So, same deal, right? I think, is this the one on the zombie dragon? It must be. Ghoul King. Ghoul King. The Abhorrent Ghoul King. Is that what it is? Can't use... Yeah, these things are nasty. They throw so many dice. It could just be the one on foot. No, it's on Royal Zombie Dragon. I'm gonna refer to these later. So, oh, by the way, patrons can have access to all these. I know it's, you know, openly available for everybody, but if you're a patron and you want a copy of this slideshow, let me know. Grand Justice Gormain on a 3-up has a strike last if he's in combat with a hero, or and a Surf unit or knight. So, like, you have to be in combat with a hero and a Surf unit. So, like I said, not a ton of strike first, strike last effects in this army. Crypt Guard gives itself and every non-monster hero wholly within 3 inches of it a 5-up ward. If you charge it, it gets +1 rend, and on a 3-up gets strike first, but it can lose the ward. So it's like, I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about this, about Crypt Guard. Crypt Guard are gonna be good, but yeah, you just gotta be a little bit careful about Crypt Guard. I think you're gonna see them quite a bit. I think you'll see them quite a bit. Let's have a little bit of a better look at this. So it has anti-charge +1 rend. Right? Yeah, while any friendly non-monster Flesh Eater Courts heroes are wholly within this unit's combat range, both this unit and those hero, and then hero has a 5-up ward. So it's gonna have a 5-up ward all of the time. Right? It's because that's just how they're gonna, that's just how, if they're not doing this, they're not gonna run the unit. But they're gonna have a noble that's gonna sit just behind them, and they're gonna be wholly within 3, so that it just gives it a 5-up ward, right? That's what, if you see this unit, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be an anvil. It's going to just sit on an objective, or choke up the middle, or whatever, or secure a flank, whatever, and it's just going to have a 5-up ward. These things come in, how big are these things? I think they come in 10s, so you'll probably see them in 20s, right? What you can try to do is you can try to, like, get in combat with the foot hero and kill it first so that it loses the ward, right? If you can kill the noble and stop the recursion and stop the ward, that's going to be your best case, right? So, but again, that's just like a general idea with Feck, is to kill these foot heroes. Okay, if this unit is in combat with an enemy unit that charged this turn, roll a die. On a 3-up for the rest of the turn, it has strike first, but ward rolls cannot be made for it. And then it also just has anti-charge +1 rend. So Mighty Destroyers into combat with the Crypt Guard. Mighty Destroyers into combat with it, and hopefully also into combat with the foot hero that's accompanying it. Take away their charge +1 damage. Kill the hero, right? And then from that point on, it's like, okay, no more recursion, no more ward. Now you have a 6-up save and 1 health and 28 models. We're just gonna chew through you now. But you have to play these sneaky games. Right? Move up to it, don't charge it. They countercharge you, fine. You didn't charge it, they don't get anti-charge. Right? So, but you're going to still have to be really sneaky about how you do it, because you're going to have to come in in such a way that you can actually get into these foot heroes. Right? So, But yeah, that's it. I mean, overall, like, I think that when it comes to playing against Feck, I think that the big, like, you know, the big struggles that Ironjawz are going to have are weathering the storm, right? And trying to get at their foot heroes. I think that maybe you don't, like, I don't know, like, it's hard to say. Like, I would need to play against the army like 5 or 6 times, but I imagine that one of two things is going to happen on the table. Either you're going to have like a big defensive perimeter and you're going to be like an infantry heavy army, and you're going to have like, you know, everything's like sort of like you're like, you take the center. Like, these are situations that I see you winning, right? But it's like Ironjawz takes the center and we sort of form this big circle of units around the whole center of the table, and they keep coming in from all directions, but we're able to hold the primary the whole time and score our tactics, whatever our tactics, you know, happen to be. And we just weather the storm. Like, we circle the wagons and weather the storm. They don't get at our foot heroes, and they just crash and crash and crash and recur and recur and recur, and we just outlast them. That's one way that I see Ironjawz beating Feck. Another way that I see Ironjawz beating Feck is the opposite, is playing lots of pigs, lots of cavalry, lots of mobility, and we spread out all over the table. We have stuff going on everywhere. And so Feck doesn't know, like, there's no juicy center for it to try to get at. We just sort of have stuff everywhere. Our most valuable things are screened, right? We have, like, for example, a Tusk Boss, but then beside it is a unit of Gorgruntas that's zoning out, you know, the outside. Because I think we still kind of want to play in the middle of the table, because when they come on the board edge, right, if we're kind of like in the middle and we're zoned out to the outside, and we're sort of like preventing them from deep striking and teleporting in the center, and we keep them to the exterior, I think that's still going to work out better overall for us. But if we can have cavalry and monsters like everywhere all over the table, then it's going to make it a lot harder for the Feck units to like properly screen out their own foot heroes, right? It's like, oh, we charged in and we won a combat, got rid of a unit, because we will be removing their units from the table. Like, they are t-shirt saves, as Vince likes to say, but we will remove their units from the table, and then all of a sudden it'll be like, here's a big pig charging from a direction that you didn't see coming. Bam, we killed the little foot hero. Bam, we killed the abhorrent. Bam, we got into the charnel throne and we killed it, right? So you just got to play a hacking crew. Kragnos probably also isn't a bad idea. We need as much mobility as we can so that we can get around them and get into their little heroes in the back. That's how we're going to win. You're going to win by getting rid of their heroes in the back. So as much mobility as you can manage, right? As much mobility as you can manage. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you like the format of these videos? Is there something that you think that I'm not doing that I could add? I'm still kind of experimenting with this. I have another Gits one to do for Feck, and then I'm moving on to Night Haunt. So let me know what you think. I make these videos so that I can learn these armies and get better at the game, but also so that you can learn these armies and get better at the game. So if there's anything that I can do to improve, please do let me know in the comments below. This time, I promise I'm going to turn off my voice modulator as soon as I use it, right after I say, like, subscribe.
Wow.